I think women don't feel safe because it's not a safe place for women, and the statistics bear us out on that. The levels of violence in general are high in Namibia, and the levels of sexual violence are also very high in Namibia. So that's why women don't feel safe.
And you've actually drawn a sort of historical link between the high levels of domestic violence in places like Namibia and South Africa, and also apartheid. I think that's something that some people wouldn't necessarily automatically draw parallels between. Just walk us through that.
I think many people don't realize that Namibia was administered as a fifth province of apartheid South Africa. So we had the same legalized system of apartheid here with administrators from Pretoria. And Zain, why I think that's important, because there was a lot of structural violence as part of apartheid. There was migrant labor systems that really destroyed black families. And most tellingly, I really think it's the high levels of inequality that characterize the economic structure of both Namibia and South Africa. And we all know, and evidence shows that countries that have high levels of inequality have high levels of violence. And I often think that when we have the discussion about violence in both Namibia and South Africa, we often forget that we're talking about post-conflict societies with all of the problems related to post-conflict societies.
And when we talk about abuse against women in Namibia, yes, obviously physical abuse is one important strand of it, but it's also verbal abuse. As First Lady, you have been called a slut, you have been called too fat, you have been called too ugly, you have been called manipulative, corrupt. People have said that your marriage to the president is a sham. You have received all kinds of horrific online abuse. And I know that a lot of women in power who have to deal with abuse on social media, a lot of times they keep silent. You have chosen not to keep silent. You have spoken out about this quite recently in a video that sort of went somewhat viral. Just walk us through why you have chosen not to be silent.
So like most people, I was told not to speak out, to ignore it. And I realized it was getting worse. And I decided, if this is my experience, I wonder how many other women are having the same experience and are also being silenced. And I felt a responsibility to speak because I felt there were fewer consequences for me to say what I said in that video where I addressed those slurs. And to say that when we are silent, we allow other women to think that maybe they're the problem. Why do other women not experience what I'm experiencing? And by speaking up about it, there was this avalanche of response from men and women, because I think few people understood how toxic and vile online harassment actually is. And I think the video also let us see how common it is for everybody. And I was also concerned by how many young people who want to engage in politics or who want to fly high were starting to say, no, I don't want to be politically engaged, because if this is what you are going through and you're a first lady, if the system can't protect you, how will I be protected? And that would be a sad day if we allow online harassment to effectively silence women, because that's the intent. The intent isn't because they really believe I'm ugly or they really believe I'm fat, or they really believe I'm a gold digger, because evidence will bear me out that none of that is true. The intent is really to say, keep quiet, know your place, and stop speaking so much.
You've talked about the fact that it is not enough just to have women support women when it comes to gender-based violence, femicide, rape, that sort of thing. It is very important, if not more important, to really make sure that men are involved too. So I'm just curious, your husband happens to be the most powerful man in your country. He's the president. How is he supporting this issue?
He is the most powerful man, but I think more importantly than that is his personal value system. And he has generally gotten a very progressive, or he has a very progressive understanding and acceptance of these type of issues. And I think it reflects itself in the nature of our relationship. I don't think many spouses can say the type of things I say without some form of moderation from their spouses. It's not that he doesn't have his views, but he certainly does respect mine.
But Monica, beyond sort of just supporting you in your endeavors to promote gender equality in the country, how has he actually shown as president practical support for this issue?
So he's shown, so apart from Namibia being, I think, the second or the third country in Africa with the highest female representation in parliament, he's also appointed women to very powerful positions. Our prime minister is a woman, and she used to be the minister of finance. Both ministers of education are women. Our deputy prime minister, who's also the vice president of the ruling party, is a woman. So he's really populated powerful portfolios with competent and able female representation. And so we've got lots of women in very powerful positions, which really reflects his view that he must have an inclusive executive that reflects the demographics of this country.